Greetings sailors, and welcome to a replay of mine that's a bit of a blast from the past. My brain's been a little bit of a mess this week, and so I pulled out, having finally scraped together enough brain cells to actually do a video, I've pulled out an older replay from late 2018 showing the Wukong. Wait, I mean the Charles Martel. It is kind of timely this, because of course the Wukong has been being tested along with the Baji. And, well, one is an Izumo, and the other is a Charles Martel, and they have pretty minimal differences. So, whilst this is the OG Charles Martel, it still kind of ties into what the Wukong will play like as well, because aside from the torps being deep water torps, and I think the consumables being a little different, I don't think it gets the speed boost, they're basically identical. This is an old enough ships replay that it's old school carriers in this one, by the way, just before everyone sees the multiple plane squads and gets completely confused. It's also a game I played with Clyde the Monkey, possibly on his stream. I'm not sure. It's also going to be a game where it's just a bit of a hot mess generally. I mean, I like to think I've improved since this was played in September of 2018, something like that, but probably not. So far, so good. Except then we have that moment, and suddenly it looks a little bit less good. The joy of playing cruisers, everybody. I don't even know if the ship that fired that salvo has been spotted yet, but of course they weren't spotted at the point where they fired it, and clearly there was a citadel in there, so yeah, that's 3/4 of my hit points gone, and we're barely into this game, so that makes life interesting. It does at least mean, of course, I'll get that maximum AR bonus, except I don't even know if this was an AR captain. I have no way of remembering. I think this captain was almost certainly have been moved up to the Sault Louis. I was obviously still grinding this at this point, which I can tell from the community contributor camo, which gives us a nice bonus to XP. It's one of the many perks of being a community contributor, so we get these camos that mean grinds go a lot quicker. I have to sometimes remind myself that my experience playing and grinding this game is probably not the experience of most people. Of course, if you are completely flush with cash and have a premium account, you can just slap the Type 59 camos on everything that you're grinding, and it will actually give an even bigger bonus than these camos, so it's not like it's out of the reach of the average player as well, it's just we get these things as freebies. So yeah, I do have to remind myself sometimes that it's a somewhat privileged position. Anyway, this is an inauspicious start for sure, but it's going to be an interesting game. I think it's more going to be the game that's interesting rather than the ship. I honestly don't have that much that's massively positive or negative to say about the Charles Martel, to be honest. It's a reasonably competent tier 8 heavy cruiser. I kind of prefer the Algerie at tier 7, but the CM at tier 8 is okay. It's not going to blow your socks off most of the time. And most of the heavy cruisers in this game are kind of like that anyway. You just don't really have that rate of fire until you get to the higher tiers. Especially with the French ones, once you get the battery reload booster. That can help a bit as well. But yeah, I mean, for stuff like shooting that destroyer, well, it would certainly help if my gunnery was better. That's definitely going to be a theme I noticed whilst watching back this old replay, that my gunnery could have been a lot better. But a lot of the times I didn't really have the rate of fire to be able to massively punish people in one go. But it's not really going to matter for this replay. I'm sticking with allies for most of this replay. I kind of had to after taking that big early smack. So that incoming fire told me it was probably the Amagi or one of the other ships over on the other side that was targeting me there, but they've ceased doing that for the time being, which is fine. I'd rather have something targeting me from far away, which has less chance of hitting me. But, well, even sometimes those shots can do you a nasty. It's not like I've got a lot of hit points left to take excessive amounts of further damage at this stage. So we forced that destroyer to back off. We are pushing this cap a bit, which is quite nice. They do have some battleships down here, but we have more forces here. But you can see how it's going on the other flank. It's kind of a mirror of this one, with the difference being they actually were able to... I don't know what happened there. My mouse bugged out slightly. It happens occasionally with the laser sensor. It goes a little haywire. Anyway, what was I saying? Yes, the difference being they'd actually managed to cap this before we forced them out of it, whereas on the other flank they also capped that, so it's not like they were forcing us out of a cap they'd otherwise taken. So we're already on the back foot in terms of getting points. At least the ship trading has been even so far. We're down 2 ships each. Keep an eye on that Atlanta, by the way. That Atlanta is absolutely going to be a key player throughout this game. And although this is a very good map for the Atlanta, you still have to be doing the right things in order to take advantage of what this map can provide in terms of cover. Oh, there's one other thing I wanted to mention that I was going to mention at the start and then kind of didn't. But this is still sort of the start of the video, right? He says 6 minutes in. Yeah, I mentioned I was doing a new intro and then I had tried to actually do it in a training room, and just in case anyone was wondering what happened with that, basically there was a replay bug that meant I couldn't get it how I wanted it in terms of me ramming another ship or another ship ramming me in the training room. So yeah, that's kind of gone on the back burner a bit, so I'm just going to stick with the current one for the time being. So I've almost cleared this flank out. That Scharnhorst is severely in trouble. They're not going to get out of this alive. I've got a fire going on them, I think. The Atlanta's firing on them as well. I think Clyde is in his Roma. Clyde has just about solo capped. And we've also got a destroyer, but that destroyer I think turns out to be not particularly useful. In fact, they were the destroyer I was looking at when we came into this replay, because they really didn't seem inclined to particularly try and cap or do anything in terms of spotting early on. And yes, granted, there is a carrier in play, but they still could have taken a peek at points early on when they didn't. So it's about 30 seconds later on. There's that low health Z39. We've also... Z23 rather. Yes, that's the tier 8, isn't it? Yes, I can just about see on the preview. But they're trying to cap B with the Gajamada, and this is all looking a little bit messy. I mean, it's now no longer being capped, but this is a very vulnerable cap for us. It doesn't look like we're in a good position to really defend that, especially. So now we've got the Fiji going in there, backed up by, what was that, Massachusetts and Amagi, a little further north. I'm not entirely sure why they are that far north. Maybe they think they're going to find a carrier up there, but our Lexington has long since moved. So I'm taking a bit of a risk here. This Alabama could really easily finish me off. The fact that I'm in a low health cruiser makes me a very tasty target. So I'm turning away. I've got the speed boost going right now. But fortunately for me, they are solely putting their attention onto Clyde. Unfortunately for Clyde, well, you saw the Gajamada there getting spotted. That's one lot of torps out. I think he avoids those. But with him taking the brunt of that, I can't remember if there's like a second set that hits him, or is it just the carrier that goes after him? I think it's just the carrier. Yeah, there's the second set. So it is just the carrier. But he's going to take a big hit from somewhere in a moment as well. I remembered that much. But he takes a big hit. So although he's reasonably well angled against this Alabama right now, he is effectively broadside onto those two battleships to the north, and I think that's where the damage comes from. So yeah, he just took a big chunk of damage from somebody there. So there goes the Alabama, but Clyde's looking now quite vulnerable himself. My damage isn't too shabby, although I've had to be maybe a bit more cautious than I like. So although that wasn't really cautious, was it? That was just me not getting targeted by that Alabama, which could have really finished me with a bit of luck. So that's dealt with now. We've got the Fiji, who's for some reason charged around the corner. They're not trying to smoke here. But between myself, the Atlanta, and Clyde, they shouldn't last too much longer. However, unfortunately, the Roma isn't known for its hugely effective AA suite, even with the old AA skills available. So he gets taken out by a Lexington torpedo drop, and that now deprives us of another battleship. We've only got 2 left at this point, the Tirpitz and the Nagato. And it's close, it's really close. We are just about ahead right now, and we are capping, but the Kagero that went chasing after the Lexington has put themselves in a really vulnerable position. The Lexington's going to be fully concentrating all of their air power on them, and although that means that their Lexington isn't really doing anything offensively against our ships, they still have their fighter squads. Oh no, the fighter squad's there actually, isn't it? I swore I saw a fighter symbol over that Amagi, but maybe it was a catapult fighter. Anyway, it's kind of, you know, benefits our allies a little bit, but that Kagero could possibly have been doing more useful things in the middle. And as it is, the Nagato is being picked on, and the Tirpitz is trying to go through the middle, but it's not going to get there in time to stop the Nagato getting killed. So our ships are kind of doing a one-by-one thing at the moment. The Atlanta's still playing it relatively safe, though. I have decided, meanwhile, to go after this carrier, because I do not expect the Kagero to actually walk away from that alive. And if I can also get a cap in the process, and there we go, yeah, the dive bombers take him out, then yeah, we're going to need that, because we are very close on points. So this is the point where having a main battery reload booster of my own would be really useful, but was that added later? I can't remember. It's been that long since I played the Charles Martel that I honestly can't remember if it actually has it or not. Anyway, so there's a fire, which, this being the old style carriers, is going to burn a bit longer, but well, yeah, this carrier's now going to send their planes after me, aren't they? There's not really any question about that, especially, so I really do have to kill this carrier if I want to cap. And here's where that lowish rate of fire of a heavy cruiser starts to work against me. I'm not giving enough lead here, really, am I? I'm giving enough to get some hits, but yeah, it's been a problem for me all game long, really. Now, I'm not entirely sure that AP was the right choice there. That was, I think, a little bit too much of an angle to be trying to use that. And if I had a defensive right now, that would also be useful, but sadly I don't. So yeah, I'm getting some pens, but I'm also getting some shatters. And, oh, that was a decent hit, that was more. But yeah, HE might have set another fire. HE might well have just been the more useful choice overall there. So the Nagato's down. They're over 900 points, but we're really not far behind. Carrier's made the drop with one set of planes, but I know they are pretty vulnerable. If I can just basically get to a point where I can shoot them. Here, however, comes the second squad of dive bombers, so I'm going to get reset again, unfortunately, but at least the enemy team isn't getting any cap points from this point while I'm here. So, oh, this is close, but I'm not going to quite make it. I'm also going to burn a bit, but he's very low health. And although he does disappear for a second, there we go, that one salvo is all it takes. I am still air spotted though. And while this has all been going on, the Nagato died obviously, but the Tirpitz has died as well, leaving both those enemy battleships left alive. And we are down on points, but as long as I don't die whilst being spotted by the planes, which is why I'm trying to make the turn here to stay in the cap and also present a smaller target, then we have time to overtake them. Our carrier has also been doing what they can to get damage. They might have contributed to the low health that's left on both these enemy battleships. But I suspect a lot of it has also been down to that Atlanta, who has been using the islands to just sit there and pummel these battleships over and over and over again. So Massachusetts is temporarily vanished, but the fires that the Atlanta set actually got the kill, so that's pushed us even closer to victory. In fact, we now look like we're going to get 1,000 points before we actually run down on time. And as it turns out, the Amagi is extremely low health also, but we're just not going to have enough time to kill them. The carrier might have done, but now that we've got this cap, which was enough to put us over the top anyway, along with the carrier kill, it's not really going to matter. It's slightly annoying that they got to live, but I think I'm just glad that we won this one, because it ended up being a really close game. And I could have stayed around the middle to help out, but I think, looking back on it, that call to go after the carrier was the correct one. And I guess they didn't have a lot left in the way of torpedo bomber squads, because it was just the dive bombers they were sending after me, which I was able to weather the attacks of. So, 2,400 damage done. Yeah, 2,400 damage, 2,400 base XP, with the Atlanta in there in second place, and actually Clyde in third. The surviving battleships towards the end were kind of partway up the team, halfway up there for the turbits, and about 3/4 of the way down for the Nagato. So they were maybe the most useful players, but they did keep those enemy battleships tied up on that end of the map for long enough to me to get over there and kill that carrier. And that's obviously where having the speed boost and all that helped out a bit as well. And I think the Kigaro must have done some damage, but the majority of that carrier's damage came to me. So it was a nice top up to my damage total at the end of that, and one of the better damage results I had in the Charles Martel overall. But really it was the circumstances of those games that made me keep that. As to why I then sat on it for, what, a year and a half? More than a year and a half? No, about a year and a half. I don't know, but I have replays that are older than that even, that I've just never got round to using. So, you know, at some point you might see a replay that is even further back in time than this one. Anyway, so that was an appropriately, messy game to go with the appropriately messy state of my brain at the moment. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you did, you can do all the usual things down underneath the video, and of course, as always, stay tuned for more.